Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Department of Products Weekly Briefing. I'm Rich Holmes, the writer of Department Products Substack. And coming up this week, we're going to take a look at some of the major announcements from the AWS reInvent conference that matter to product teams, along with some new products from 11 Labs, as well as a new productivity app which combines the best bits of Notion, Google Calendar, and Google Docs. Plus, we'll take a look at some of the latest data and trends that matter to product teams, including AI's growing impact on search behavior, and Bluesky's impressive engagement metrics. Now, as always, if you enjoy the briefing, hit the subscribe and the like button. And if you want more from the Department of Product, you can now follow me on Bluesky, plus over on the Substack. So this week is Amazon's biggest event of the year, as it kicked off its reInvent conference. And the conference contains a whole bunch of different announcements, but perhaps some of the most impactful for product teams include the unveiling of the company's new flagship agentic AI capabilities. And what it essentially does is it allows companies to create agents that can execute tasks across a series of different systems. This is very similar to the demos that we've seen previously from Microsoft and also companies like Salesforce. What it does is it allows users to build their specialized agents on AWS's Bedrock. In one example, the CEO explained how the credit agency Moody's used a series of different agents to analyze the risk profile of companies. And during the same keynote, the CEO also announced a series of new foundational AI models, which includes Canvas that lets users generate and edit images using just prompts, and Reels, which allows users to create videos up to 6 seconds in length. Also this week, 11 Labs has launched its own take on Google Notebook LM, which generates podcasts from PDFs, ebooks, and other documents. But since 11 Labs specializes in voice generation, it does things a little bit differently to Google Notebook. First of all, it's only on its mobile app at the moment. They've released this Reader app, which allows users to consume content. But given that 11 Labs specializes in voice generation, what it does is it creates bespoke voices that are tailored specifically to the content that it is referencing, which is super handy, and it stops people from becoming fatigued from the Google Notebook LM podcast audio, which we all know pretty well by now. And speaking of Notebook LM, Spotify this week announced its annual Wrapped feature, and this for the first time includes a personalized Notebook LM powered podcast. Now everyone is sharing their Spotify Wrapped. I'm not going to inflict mine upon you. That wouldn't do much for my reputation. But what's interesting here is that Google appears to have shot itself in the foot by failing to retain the talent of the team who actually created it. So the Notebook LM product leaders this week announced that they are actually leaving the company to build something transformative in the space. And this is pretty typical of Google. They nurture internal startups, which then do really well and suddenly explode onto the scene. And then Google somehow fails to turn that early success into long-term products. I'm not saying that Notebook LM is going to fail long-term here. All I'm saying is that for a company like Google, who've had such a difficult start in this AI era, for them to fail to retain this talent and nurture them and help them turn Notebook LM into a fully fledged product does look like a failure from the outside. But let's see. So they're leaving to build a new startup, which they say is going to be transformative in the space. They have set up a holding page, which you can check out, but that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Meanwhile, Threads is actually starting to roll out more and more features that have been requested by users. And one of the major ones released this week is an updated version of search. Now, this actually looks really well designed from a UX perspective, but one of the driving forces behind this is the rise of Bluesky. So Bluesky continues to grow, and this week it's set to hit over 25 million users. And it's this pressure from competitors like Bluesky that are forcing companies like Threads to adopt features that they perhaps might rather not. So one of the main features that users of Bluesky really like is the ability to set your home screen to your following feed rather than the discovery feed. This, a few years ago, the idea that somehow setting your default home screen on a social media app to people you follow would be a differentiator would be a little bit absurd, but that's where we're at. And the rise of Bluesky is being noted by tech CEOs. A new piece of analysis this week conducted by Sherwood shows that engagement rates on Bluesky are actually significantly higher than Threads or X. So this piece of analysis calculated an engagement per million user score. And for pretty much every single story, engagement on Bluesky was far higher than engagement on Threads or X. And in one story, Bluesky got an engagement score of 58.78 versus just 4.2 for Threads and 0.31 for X. So Bluesky is causing major problems for incumbents, and it seems to be the first real dominant challenger to Twitter or X. Other updates this week include the browser company's Next browser. So we were teased something about this a few weeks back when their CEO said that they were working on a new browser, which for fans of Arc was bad news. And this week they've revealed the name, which is Deer, and they've revealed how it works. So this is an AI-first browser that imagines a future where browsers perform tasks on your behalf. So in the demo video, they showed some examples of the browser performing specific actions on behalf of its users. And this is certainly a futuristic and intriguing concept, but I can't help questioning whether this is really worth ditching the brand equity that they've spent so much time building over the past few years. It seems to me that under pressure from investors, they've had to come up with something completely new. As we mentioned last week, there's a lot of talk in this space of AI-first browsers, particularly once they start to adopt agentic capabilities and start performing actions on users' behalf. But the ability to perform actions on a user's behalf is still untested. We're not really sure whether users actually want this. And so DIA will be one of the first tests that we see out into the market to see whether users actually want to hand over control to AI to browse on their behalf. Personally, I can imagine myself doing this for tasks I'd rather not complete, but I'd probably sit there and watch it perform these tasks for fear of it going rogue, which kind of then defeats the object. When someone takes remote access of your machine and you're a little bit paranoid about they're going to click on the wrong thing or they're going to do something, install something bad on your machine, I still have that feeling with this. So the product market fit is far away for these browsers, but it'll certainly be interesting to see how this evolves over the next couple of months. Now let's take a look at some tools you can use. So first up is a company called Craft, and this week they've released the third iteration of their product. And this company is actually founded by a Substack writer's brother. So the founder, the writer of The Pragmatic Engineer, his brother actually created this. And it's designed to combine the best bits of Notion, Google Calendar, and Google Docs to help you to organize your life. So if you're a bit of a productivity geek, then this could be something that is worth checking out because it looks really well designed. The next is a company called Lica, that's Lica, and it's this new startup that's founded by two former Microsoft employees. And what it does is it takes all of your unused screenshots and then it transforms them into product demo videos. So this week they raised $4 million for this concept. And at the moment they're focusing specifically on this ability of taking all of the assets that you may have created during your day. So that is like screenshots, notes, Google Docs, other presentations, and then compiling them all into one video. And for the moment, they're focused on demo videos, but this could have the potential to evolve into something more wider in scope as the company evolves. So Lica could be something worth checking out if you find yourself struggling to put together coherent product demo videos. And another product is something called Magic Pattern. So Magic Patterns lets you type your product ideas and then transform them into designs instantly. It's backed by Y Combinator, and one of its leading value proposition statements is user story to visual design in seconds. I'm not sure if product designers will be particularly happy about the idea that a user story can just be converted into a visual design in seconds. But this could definitely be useful for times where you just want to put together a quick mock-up, which is still using your current product's design language. So if you're looking for quick ways to validate ideas, then Magic Patterns could be interesting for you as well. Now let's move on to some data for this week. I'll start with this piece of data, which looks at search habits in the US. And in 2024, there are now 15 million US adults who start their search with AI. And this is forecast to grow to over 36 million by 2028. At the same time as this, Google's percentage share of search ad revenues is set to drop to below 50% for the first time by next year. So these are slightly different metrics. The first is to do with where people start their search, and the second is to do with ad search revenue market share. But they do build a picture which doesn't look particularly good for Google. But none of this actually factors in the upcoming search products from OpenAI and Perplexity. So once those products are factored into the revenue mix, the 2025 projections could actually look very different. And as we know, in AI, these things happen very quickly. So that's something definitely worth to keep an eye on. Speaking of quick adoption of products, OpenAI's CEO, Sam Altman, confirmed this week that ChatGPT now has over 300 million weekly active users, which is pretty ridiculous. Other data worth knowing about this week is a prediction from Gartner, which predicts that 60% of large organizations will deploy AI agents to automate workflows across departments like HR, customer support, and finance. And Salesforce's CEO this week doubled down on that prediction by saying that the recent release of its AI agentic product, Agentforce, means that they're not just witnessing the future, according to him, but also leading it. And the company's revenue this week backed him up on that front, with Salesforce's revenue growing 8% year on year to $9.4 billion. And as we draw closer to the year end, we'll start, as well as things like Spotify Wrapped, there's another tradition that is always worth looking forward to, and that is Oxford Dictionary's Word of the Year. And this year, the Oxford Dictionary Word of the Year is actually two words, which is brain rot. So brain rot describes the deterioration of a person's mental state due to excessive consumption of social media content. And as product builders, chasing OKRs and engagement rates and all the rest of it, we probably do share the blame for some of this brain rot epidemic. And on that note, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. And if you enjoy the briefing, as I mentioned, you can hit the subscribe and the like button. And also you can join me over on Substack, where I talk about all things product, tech, and AI. Enjoy the rest of your week.